So today we're going to be trying out something pretty exciting. I'm going to be transplanting some tissue culture of the Philodendron Paraiso verde or Paraiso verde from the gel, the nutrient gel that they're kept in, that's what they grow in, into stratum, because I've heard that that one is the least likely for things to go wrong in terms of fungal growth. We will be cleaning them with surgical iodine to minimize infection. Okay, so with tissue cultures that have been in a different environment, when they arrive, you do not want to transplant them straight away. So I have waited a few days for them to kind of acclimatize, and also the light levels. I do have some lights on behind me, which helps because this is a very, very dark north facing room. So hopefully they haven't been too much in shock, but I'll guess we find out when we transplant them. So they come in little bags like this. You can see their gel with all their nutrient gel in there. So that's what they've been living off. That's only some of it. They would have been grown in plastic or glass containers, but I'll do another video separately on how tissue culture and micropropagation works. This is my first time doing this properly with ordering tissue culture online. These look so healthy and I got them off of eBay. We're gonna see what happens. Luckily I didn't go with like a very expensive plant, and I went with someone who was doing tissue culture in the UK, so I didn't have any import fees or a massive transport bill. So this is what they look like. So I got quite a few because they were quite cheap. And then hopefully at least one of them survives. That's the main goal anyway, for at least one of them surviving. And then I did also get, just because of shipping, I got this Philodendron Wizard, and it's got really lovely variegation on the leaves, so I'll be doing that as well. So first off, I'm going to start by rinsing off the gel and cutting off any dead or not quite right leaves with some sterilized snips. I will be diluting some of this 7.5% iodine povidone, and I'll be putting them in stratum in my classic seed tray containers. These have been great, and I like them because they keep the humidity in, which is something that we really need, because obviously they have been grown in a container that has kept that moisture and that air around them, so they're coming from a very humid environment, and if you just put them into a very dry environment, they're going to really suffer from that. So that's why we need the domes. So first things first, let's get them out of the bag. That to the side. Absolutely gorgeous. That is what you want to see in healthy roots. Really nice white roots that have got they've got active growing tips. They're not broken at all. Really healthy. So I hope I'm not gonna destroy them with my antic. Yeah, lovely, lovely plants. And it's great to start off with such strong plants. It really reduces the chance that you will lose them. So any leaves that I feel aren't gonna live up to standard, I'm just gonna snip off. If they're gone mushy or anything like that, it might be older leaves, the new leaves that they grew on the colour. Oh, and look at that, I think we've got 2 plants for the price of 1 there. So we've got a plant coming up here. There's one there, and then we have one here. So in theory, I could separate them. Just have to get into this mass. Again, look at this root growth. And this fluff, you might be able to see the fluff on here. It's not mold, those are little root hairs. So I think it's going to be a bit of a stress for them, putting them into the iodine, just because of how fluffy they are and full of life, and I'm going to get water on them. But we've got a new leaf coming, which is great. These ones don't have too much variegation going on in the leaves yet, but you never know what quite you're going to get with tissue cultures. Some are specially selected because they have more patterns in the leaves. Oh look, it looks like we've got 2 in this one as well. That's the thing, when they callus, the new plants grow up from the callus, and you can get multiple plants from just one calloused X plant. We might decide to deliberately put 2 together if they're looking a little bit weaker, or it's too difficult to cut between them, and so sometimes there's a whole bush of plants there that I can then divide. They smell a bit like cheese. They smell a bit like cheese or really, really old sock. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Haven't come across that as being an issue. And what's great about tissue culture is that they ship a lot better than small plantlets. When you can ship it with the liquid gel, they'll just last a lot longer in shipping if there's delays. Obviously they don't have sunlight there, so that can be a damaging factor, but at least they have access to water, humidity and nutrients. Look, we've got a little one growing from the base there. When we do rinse them, it's important to get all the gel off because it's a really nice medium for bacteria and fungi to grow on because it contains all the nutrients. With some of the smaller plants, I think I'm going to leave them on for now and then just take them off when they get established and they start growing really well, because I don't want to damage these really nice plants. They're really, really healthy. That has got some really nice variegation on it. Really nice patterning on that one. Look how much lovely variegation there is in this leaf. It looks like it's painted on. Right, now I'm gonna go away and I'm going to give these a little rinse with some distilled water. Right now, so I've added some iodine to some water and a little does go a long way. It looks really dark and perhaps I've added a little bit too much. So we're just gonna dunk them now, and you might want to do them with tweezers or something. And I think some people leave them in there, but we don't really have that much time. I'm just leaving the iodine on. I'm not rinsing it off at this moment. Luckily they're really large and I don't think this plant would have too much issues adapting. If you've got a Thai constellation that you're doing this to, I think they're a lot more difficult. So I've heard there's so many ways of doing this online. Everyone seems to have very different opinions about different things, different protocols to use, which can make it extremely confusing to do, especially if you're kind of new to this. So I'm just kind of doing what a few people have done and collated their kind of protocols together. Obviously I'm at home, I'm not in a lab, a sterile lab situation, so it's a lot harder to avoid contamination. But this is how we can do it. We can try and eliminate as many diseases and pathogens as possible. Didn't read about anyone washing it off. There's other mixtures, like people use bleach, a dilution of bleach, and they rinse it off the plant afterwards because bleach does damage the plant cells. So I'm not sure in this case. In theory, these plants should already be sterile, but they have been moved from their containers originally into the little bags for shipping. So I don't know if that process might have harbored some bacteria or something. So we're just going to be putting them in. They should all fit in 2 of our trays. I've got a little scooper because these balls go everywhere. So I'm just going to fill them halfway up. I don't really want to fill all the trays up if they're not being used. I think that's just logical. Okay, get your sterilised snips just in case. And we're just gonna pop them up. Trying to keep them as straight as possible, but they're a little bit all over the place. Like this one has huge chunky roots. This one I think has 3 extra plants on it. So it does have its own roots, but it is very, very small. So I could try and put it in Don't know how much would happen. I think I'm going to put it on the edge. There's another one in there, but I think it's too close. Stratum is really good because it's so easy to pot up because the balls just literally fill wherever. So I think it makes a really airy mixture for these aeroids. There's so many little babies on them. So actually we've got way more plants than I originally bought because we have all these little babies that we can split off when they grow a lot bigger. Another thing also with the tissue culture plants is you can see they're so bendy because they've been grown together in such tight conditions. So they're not perfectly straight. We're gonna have to train them to straighten up, maybe by having a nice light source that they can grow towards. But it can make putting them up when they're this small quite difficult. And last but not least, we have the white wizard. Right, so now that's sorted, we can place them in the trays. The domes normally have a little turning thing in you can twist to let some air in, but I don't actually have any twisty bits. That's this lot, and I'm going to put them over into the warm area. And that's about it. So there we have it, potting up tissue culture for the first time in their little trays. Hopefully they all survive, hopefully there's no issues, hopefully they don't get any fungus growing in them, and they acclimatise properly even without the green bits. I might have to steal them off from some of the other lids. And yeah, come back in a few weeks time to see how well these are doing. If you want to see me pot up this Thai constellation tissue cultured plant, that video is going to be on the screen now.